In this video, I'm going to show you how I painted up the Dark Young from the Black Go to the Wood box from CMON's Cthulhu, Death May Die. Alright, I primed these guys black and then did an undercoat of a brown just to make things a little bit easier as I am moving along. So for the bark, skin, whatever, I'm going to be moving up and succeeding higher values of a warm brown, and then I'm going to dry brush my way back down. So I'm going to start by mixing some black into this darkest brown through the hooves, and then I'm going to take the dark brown, work my way up, switch to the higher value, and then once I get to the top of the menu, do the highest value, and then we're going to dry brush back down. I was going to mix this warm off-white with the highest value brown, but I decided just to go from the white and then brown, and then the darkest brown will be on the hooves. So here we go, doing just some thin coats of watered down paint. I do 2 coats all the way up and just did the hooves in the black, and then I worked my way up, and then I did 1 pass of the dry brushing back down, and that way I kind of got the base color scheme for the entire set of minis. And by the time I worked my way all the way through, the first guy was dry, and I could kind of just do successive passes, and we're just going to do this all the way through until all the base colors for the skin, bark, whatever are laid in. Alright, and here's what they look like after I lay in the 2 layers of the base tones. Alright, and now the plan is to start the highlighting by dry brushing my way back down the mini. And I'm going to start with the warm off-white, do this on the top, and then go to the highest value brown, and then the mid-value brown, and then the darkest brown will just be on the hooves, and I only did 1 pass of the dry brushing. Alright, and there is all the dry brushing done. I actually forgot at this point to do the hooves, so I came back after I did the next step, which is to go ahead and I'm going to hit the whole thing with a brown wash. And so the one that I am using is Agrax Earthshade. After I hit the first guy with the wash, I remembered that I didn't do the hooves. So I grabbed my dry brush again, went back and did all the hooves, and then it was time to finish up the wash. I just did the wash, pretty much 1 pass on all of them. Wasn't worried about it pooling too much, and just kind of lathered it on. All right, and here we go. This is the bark, skin, main, tones, whatever you want to call it, after I did base coat, highlight, and wash. So now I'm going to take that warm off-white and I'm going to go through and I'm going to hit all of the teeth in the various mouths that are around the mini, and I'm also going to undercoat the tongues with this. We'll see why here in just a second. And then after 2 layers of the warm white on the teeth, I filled it in, or I shaded it with some Seraphim Sepia, a Seraphim wash, or sepia wash. And I did 2 coats of this too, just to get it dark where I would like it and hit all the mouths all the way around. All right, so here's what they look like after I'm kind of done with the main body of it and all the teeth. So time to pull out the card, and in the artwork, the branches kind of all end and they kind of look like tentacles by the time they get to the end. And also there's some sort of green thing going on here with the tongue. So I want to mess around with that. And so I think we're going to do a nod here to their mama, and I'm going to glaze some pink onto the tips of the branches to kind of make tentacles. And then we're going to do something with the tongue. So in order to undercoat this, I'm going to make a glaze of that warm off-white, and I'm just going to glaze the tips of each tentacle. If you're not familiar with how to make a glaze, the process of glazing, I made a quick video in my How I Do Things playlist, and you can check that out. And then I went to a pure white, undercoated the tongues, and then I made a glaze of that pure white, and I did a little bit of highlighting on the ends of the tentacles over that warm off-white, just to create a good undercoat for the glaze that I'm going to make. So here's what it looks like once I've done that undercoating. There might have been a better way to do this from the beginning, but I didn't think about it till I was already done, and it didn't take too long. So the plan is I'm going to take the same magenta that I've been using for all the tentacles, and I'm going to glaze this over that undercoating, and I'm going to start on the wood and then work my way towards the tip to kind of make a transition. And I'm going to do 2 thin coats of that, and here's what it looks like. Pour it when you're glazing. If you do this, make sure after you fill your brush, you wick most of it off on a paper towel, and then do successive many thin layers. It only took me 2 this way. All right, so for the tongues, I'm going to grab this yellowish green, and it makes a nice complementary color scheme with the purples. And then I'm going to practice my OSL with this slightly lower value green that has that same kind of hue to it. And I'm going to take this, I'm going to take the brightest green, and I'm going to glaze it over the tongues. And I'm going to do 2 layers of that, and then I'm going to make a glaze of the dark green and start working on my OSL. So I'm going to do a bunch of thin coats of this darker green, and I'm going to work it into the area where I want it look like it's glowing. And I'm not being super realistic where I'm putting this light, I just want it to look cool. And I'm trying to draw the brush towards the source of the light. And I'm doing this all around kind of the legs and the front of the face and those tentacles in the front. And you see, after like 1 coat is dried, it's very, very subtle. You know, when you're putting it on, when it's still wet, it looks crazy. But after it dries, even that first coat, you can barely see it. So you're going to do this over and over again, thin coats, until it gets to a point that you're just happy with it. So I'm just going to go back and keep doing it again and again and again until I'm happy with the effect. All right, so a bunch of coats in. The whole thing kind of backfired on the front little tentacle things for me. Complementary colors, when you mix them or glaze them, they desaturate and kind of turn brown. So that's what happened. And I had to do some extra glazing just to make it look like it was going to glow. But there you go. So I hit the rims with black, and then I'm trying out this thing I've seen in some other videos where I use a heavily watered down black and kind of dab it on to get kind of like a cloudy overcast effect. So I'm going to give that a shot. All right, and after that, we're hitting her with a matte varnish, and here we go. That's what they end up looking like, and pretty happy with it. I think I'm getting better with my OSL, and I like the way it came out. I think the tentacles look cool, and I'm just really had a great time painting this whole box. I painted the black goat in a different video. You can check that one out in the playlist. And then these guys were super fun. I probably could have just done a zenithal prime and glazed the brown, but I was gonna try doing some wet blending. It didn't work out, so we did it the way we did it, but I think it was fine. I don't want to get stuck doing one technique over and over again. And then here's the whole family together. I'm super pumped to get these guys to the table. All right, so that is the black goat and her 1,000 young. Next, we're going to be doing Yog Sothoth and the wizard Waitley. And after I get them done, all of the Elder Gods will be done.